I am Dino Philyaw, and I play running back at Oregon from 93 to 94.
One of those guys, I mean, he ended up getting drafted, played in the NFL, played with him in New Orleans. Great running back, great kickoff returner. Just one of those big dudes. You know, pro baseball player before he came to Oregon, and just he came in and you're like, that guy's a running back? I mean, he's got some pipes on him, just a rocked up kind of guy.
Hell of an athlete, got some in the NFL, good, strong, fast guy.
Definitely fast, southern, and fast.
Dino is a guy that I can call and know that he's got my back. Dino is a guy that if he needs something, he'll do whatever it takes. Dino's a true friend of mine.
And Dino's a fun guy to be around. He's just kind of a personality guy. So, you know, Dino always made it interesting, but, you know, him and Ricky Whittle was a two-headed monster.
North Carolina guy, I don't think you should have a little more south of him. He doesn't do it enough. Probably one of the only few guys that have an Oregon tap like I do, so it's pretty cool. And Dino, great guy. His barbecue was great.
Originally, the first time I saw Oregon was in the Independence Bowl, when they were playing the Independence Bowl. They were playing Wake Forest. And originally out of high school, I signed with Wake Forest to play football. I actually committed to it, but I ended up signing with Maryland. So there was quite a few guys on the Wake Forest team I knew, and I was intrigued by the offense that they was running at the time, and that was kind of the first time they kind of, you know, they sparked the interest to me. You know, and I didn't start running track until junior college. My best friend at the time, his girlfriend was a track athlete. She went on to run track at Fresno State. Really good track athlete. I think now she trains and bodybuilds now, Juana Brown. But she actually gave me the confidence. Hey, Fee, you should run track. And I'm like, you think? Yeah, you should. It'll help you in football. So I only ran track to help me in football. And so coming to Oregon, running track from junior college, it was just, okay, I'll run track. And track was kind of that alternate, hobby that I did that actually aided in my adjustment when I got here. Because if things weren't going right my junior year for football, I had track to regain my confidence. Track allowed me to find myself, and because it was an individual sport, and all I had to do was run. And me running, it allowed me to, prove that I was worth it and worthy of being here. And so it helped more than people probably realize. And to, actually finish second to Otto Bolton, who ends up getting a bronze in the Olympics that year in Pac-10s, for me is, I look back thinking, I don't ever preach coming in second is a great thing, but that was probably the one most time that I've ever came in second that I was the most proud of myself, coming in second, because I was running against a world-class track athlete. Not a really good college athlete, but a world-class track athlete, in the world. So I was proud. Well, that year we started off on fire. If I'm not mistaken, we were ranked, and we were going in to play Cal, and things were going well, and everybody had a ton of confidence. And it's amazing how a game, a play, can determine the rest of a season. And when you're beating a team 30-0 at halftime, you're just assuming that you're going to come out and score another 30 points on them and beat them 60-0. Well, that didn't quite happen. It changed the entire season. We had a couple key guys got hurt, and they were seniors at the time. One was my roommate Juan Chedrick, who got hurt, who was having a phenomenal season, and it changed the whole momentum of the entire season. Well, we were pretty versatile. I mean, we weren't, even though Ricky was a little smaller than me, we were smaller backs, but we were pretty versatile with what we could do. We could run routes. We caught the ball really well out of the backfield. And, Coach Bellotti, that was important to him for us to be able to catch the ball well. And the neat thing is we could run the same play with 5 different guys on offense running that exact same play. And that's kind of what made our our offense really, impactful. It's not as, you look back and you think and you see how the offense is today. You look at our offense and think that we didn't put up as big of numbers. But, it was a pro-style offense that ran a lot of different type of screens. Mm-hmm. From the slot, from the backfield, from out wide, in motion, coming back in, middle screen, wide screen. So we ran quite a bit, but me and Rick were versatile, almost as if we were secondary receivers playing running back. And that was probably the reason why we both got opportunities to play in the National Football League as third down running backs. Well, I saw my role differently than probably most people because I was that lone guy on that team. Other than the Malachi brothers, that was from a long distance away from home. I grew up differently than everybody else. And growing up, I didn't understand. I mean, I knew of USC football, but USC didn't mean anything to me. And so some of the rivalries that some of the other guys grew up watching Oregon in the Pac-10, which is now the Pac-12, I didn't get to see. And so I had a whole different outlook on we can be as great as we want to be. And so me being from another part of the country, I was ignorant to the fact of stay in my place. We need to stay in our place in the Pac-10. When I came up there, I said, we can be great. And I told Coach Pilati and Coach Campbell when I came, I said, my junior year would be okay, but my senior year, we're going to win the Pac-12 and we're going to go to the Rose Bowl. I mean, they thought I was crazy. And naturally, I was already a little different. But for me to tell them that, coaches that had never been, that we're going to win the Pac-10 and we're going to go to the Rose Bowl, they thought maybe I was smoking something before I got here. But I really believed at the bottom of my heart that I had this vision that I was going to be a part of that difference to take us where we need to go. I remember after that game, me and Jeff Sherman went and did Oregon Club with Coach Brooks. And I'll never forget going to Oregon Club, sitting in the back of Coach Brooks' car, and we're talking about how everybody wanted him fired, how they wanted him gone. And it was literally after that game where, myself, Jeff Sherman, we talked about turning this ship around. Let's making a difference. We can still do this. Because I remember coaches were already thinking about putting for sale signs in their yards. No, really. But that was a running joke every week. Was Coach Campbell was saying, the sign is in the yard, and they knew that was it. They were going to get fired. We had a come to Jesus meeting, and I stood up and I said, hey, we can do this. We can turn this around. And we never talk about that. And I've never even talked about what happened for the turnaround. And I remember having a meeting, and we just had a come to Jesus meeting. We can do this. We can turn this season around. And I think it was coming off that 1-3, and it was getting ready to go down to SC. The guys that in that game that were in those key positions at quarterback, cornerback, and running back, all three of them was draft picks.
Yeah.
And I think the difference was all, between Bryce, Kenny, and myself, we all felt like we were better than the guy in front of us anyway. And so we already had something to prove. And if you go back and you look at the history, I think we ended up showing that we were better than they were. But it wasn't about that. It was about us being able to have the opportunity. It was our chance to prove and show the coaches that we were just as good as the guys that they had in front of us. Mm-hmm. And what better not game to do it than an away game at USC, in Trojanville. It was my first 100-yard game in college, and it was the first game my mother got to watch me play on TV. That actually is one of my all-time favorites because it was truly my first big run at Oregon. I mean, I made big runs prior to that, but it was my first big run at Oregon, showing that I can, that I can make big plays. And so when I look back, I think of the SC game, because that SC game was, and I think as history kind of starts to unveil itself, I think Oregon history will start looking back and looking at that season, and they'll dissect it, and they'll be like, okay, the Washington game was huge, but the SC game was truly their turning point in that season, because it gave us momentum through the rest of the season that we could beat anybody. Yeah, I mean, most guys that played, they'll tell you that SC game was huge. The guys that played, I mean, everybody said, the Washington game was big. But when you look at the Washington game, it was big in the standpoint that there was a lot of other guys that made a lot of big plays that game. Kenny got the credit because he made the most crucial big play at the right time that game.
And it's like the last shot in basketball. Everyone only remembers the last shot.
They only remember the last shot. They don't remember everything in between. But there was a lot of other great plays made, before that. And you know what I tell kids all the time, former, players that play now and kids that I coach, and I always tell them, I always ask them, how do you want to be remembered? And sometimes how you want to be remembered and how people remember you are completely different. But whatever that legacy is that you leave, make sure it's something that people, on a positive note, will never forget. And if you want to be special, you have to do special things to leave a legacy. And probably the one thing that, I'm just blessed at the same time to know that as old as Oregon football is, I am a part of that history that will never be forgotten. Same as Kenny. What went wrong was those early field goals that were missed were the turning point.
Yeah.
Even though Kijana Carter had that first initial run where he broke the defense, he made a good play, ran the guy over, and made that big play, was huge. But we were still in the game at halftime. We were still in this game. We make those field goals, it's a different game. It's a totally different game. And we were just starting to get our screen game going. We weren't getting much on the run game because they were pretty big inside. They had a lot of first-round draft picks on that team. And we only had 3 guys that got drafted that year, and it didn't start until the 6th round. So, they had guys that were, day one, first couple pick type guys on that team. We had no business, quote, in people's minds, being on that field with those guys. Heck of a team. I'm still great friends with some of those guys today. I played with Kerry Collins, Archie Griffith, buddy of mine, still keep in touch with till today. Wally Richardson, who was on that team, good friend of mine. A lot of good friends that played on that Penn State team that we all look back and we talk about. And great team. We just, a couple plays here and there that didn't go our way was a difference. Currently I have a catering company called Philyaw's Cookout and Catering. We do authentic North Carolina style barbecue is what we specialize in, but we do a lot of different array of caterings where we mix up and we do a lot of different types of food as well. We have barbecue sauce out that we market as well, and we have in some local stores throughout the state, some Whole Foods, Roth Markets, Hartwig's, but that we have out there, and so. We just believe in trying to, use as much local product as possible. We believe in putting out a really good product, giving people more than what they expect is our motto. Give them more than they expect, because you always want to leave people overly happy with what you've given them.